Kaylin.
Oh, no, that's good. Hi. Hi. It's been a long time no see.
Andrew now.
What? I know. That's a great. Hey, what?
What, they were early?
They were early today.
Yeah.
That was my little round of applause for you.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
Oh, it's notified.
15
Through the
times.
official channels.
Thursday.
How we doing?
Good, how are you? Nice
Great.
to see you.
See you guys. Oh, thank you.
Oh, you're official.
You doing? Oh, you did?
Yep.
Sorry. Yes, sir. How's it all? Springboard.
Right.
Hi. No, it's just like, no, I've heard that. Not the same. Hi, Christine Rennie. Sorry to speak. Oh, it hasn't started yet.
We haven't started. You have 2 minutes.
I'll say anything in a minute.
How's it going?
Mine is up here. Nothing right there. I'm gonna toggle. I'm not sure if I can make it in time. Sometimes it's dancing last night. Picked the girls from dance, got them down to their dads. Scott and I went out to dinner.
Oh,
where'd you go?
We went to the new Hearts and Hills down there. It's called Hill's Kitchen.
Okay.
Okay.
What?
Yeah, Urban Hill.
That's a third thing.
Yeah. And he's gonna have
It's a new restaurant. Yeah, you'll be when
What kind of food is it? It's, you know what's kind of a really good conversation. Are you to your desk? I don't know. I don't know. Go to your desk. It's kind of got a little bit of
Go to my
everything.
desk?
He was trying to say have a little vegetables there. But it has, I mean, everything. It's more deal like I've been practicing it. But it was
I know the source, I know.
And Abby got sick last night. Yeah.
Okay, across. Yeah.
I felt like you could not be not included in that. But at the same time, let's get over the 4-minute crackers. Get her
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Going over this.
Yes, I agree.
No, thank you.
All right, let's call this regular session meeting of the Park City School Board at 3 p.m. on December 13th, 2022. Now stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I just have recognition now on that. I don't know who I'm turning this over to, or if I'm supposed to speak, or
You're president.
Well, first off, thank you everybody for being here today, and trying not to cry. It's okay. Thank you all for the last 5 years, and especially to my fellow board members. You guys know how much I love and appreciate each one of you. And Dr. Gilbay, thank you for everything, and to everybody in the school district. So parent, I'll still be here, I'll still be involved. But I truly love and appreciate everything that you guys do for us every day, especially our children. So thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry.
No,
I really didn't want to
I don't even know what to say because you're not going away, but thank you so much for your services. Thank you for stepping up to leadership and thank you for all you've done. And you've made a tremendous effort and difference through, crazy pandemic. And we just really appreciate you for a host of reasons. So thank you.
Thanks for your sacrifice and your time. I think it's not always known what goes into the job as a board member or as a board president. It was your turn to serve and you did an absolutely amazing job. And I think you've been a great leader for the district and for the children of our community and for our teachers and administrative staff. So thank you. And you're going to be missed quite a bit. Certainly by all of us, but I think by everyone else as well. So thank you, Erin.
Yeah, I think personally on the outside, we can have some fun. I thank you. You've been such a tremendous teammate, friend, and served this community as somebody working with you. I can't thank you enough for how you do it. There's a lot of things to celebrate success-wise, and I and us, we can attest to how you do it. You find a way to take the right things seriously, and then to keep things human and always ready to dive in. There's not one time you didn't take something on and then stay at it or worry about it or work to take care of it. You're just such a good person. And as Andrew said, this district, we're really going to miss you. You should feel so good though about all the service you did. And you're leaving us with a path to keep building on, and thank you for that. Because I know you sacrificed a lot to do this, and I know you're not leaving. We're not gonna let you out. Mandy, I wanted to say thank you for stepping up as well. I mean, it wasn't an easy moment to do it. You also jumped in and became a team player. So it was so great having you part of these last several months, despite all the things you had to kind of face and endure. I really respect that you served in the way you did and joined this in the moment you did, and should also feel really good about the service you give. Absolutely. And thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you, Mandy. Thank you for
Thank you.
stepping up.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. Oh, wait.
Thank you.
Well, after your time and energy, don't throw them at anyone.
We won't.
And then any other recognition?
Yeah, I just want to say, I don't know if I'm allowed to talk, but you are so poised and so articulate, Erin, and you have taken bullets for the greater good of our community that we are all so passionate about. You have put in countless hours. Thanks to your children and your husband for standing by you and lifting you up when you may have been crumbling inside. And I'm just so grateful for your fortitude and all of your dedication. And I know there's been times when there's been loud chatter, but I hope that you and the rest of the board knows that there is silent power behind you all at all times. And we're always here, to lift you up. But thank you so much for the time that you have put in. We are better because of it. So I'm super proud of you and I'm excited about your next steps. Let's
Should I let them do it?
Yeah.
Go for it.
Go for it.
Get over here. Get over
That was so
It was your cute life.
Bye, guys. Have fun.
Bye.
The highlight of my daughter's here.
It's not public comment time, but can I read something that a constituent sent in for, to be read? You have them available. Okay, this is from Bill and Susan Pidwell, who are otherwise unable to be here today. We want to thank each individual who's willing to put themselves out into the public eye and become a member of the Park City School Board. This is basically a volunteer position that takes the equivalent time of a full-time job, and our community is forever indebted to each and every one of you. I've witnessed you sacrifice your mornings, nights, and weekends, and most importantly, time away from your families to serve the greater Park City community. When most of you joined this board, it was simply to give back to the rest of us by doing your best to support our local school district. You had no idea how school boards would suddenly morph into a political pond, and I greatly respect your ability to adapt to that changing world around us. After today, some of you returned to spending time with your loved ones, and some of you are just starting your service to your neighbors by representing us on the school board. I encourage the 5 of you on the new board to work closely together while removing all politics from the Park City School Board. This will allow you to only look through the lens of what is in the best interest of the students and teachers, keeping Park City as best school district in the state. They have some big shoes to fill, but I'm excited to see the new ideas they bring to benefit the whole community. I also want to take a minute to specifically thank a board member that I have the pleasure of working with directly. Aaron.
Specifically thank a board member that I had the pleasure of working with directly, Aaron Brady. Greater Park City area does not realize the time and dedication put into this job, and we have all benefited greatly. Your leadership led to the passage of the first school bond in 40 years, weathered the crazy COVID storm in a way that kept our children both safe and educated, all while improving relationships between the district board and teachers. Despite some politically charged times, you've managed to keep things civil, always managing the school board with the utmost respect for everyone. You put the time and energy into this job like I would only hope for from any full-time employee. And you did it only out of the goodness of your heart. You've done your part in making this a great place to live. Now it is time for the rest of us to step up in your shadow and try our best to live up to the standard you have set. On behalf of both Susan and I, we would like to extend our heartfelt gratitude for all that you have done for our kids, their classmates, and all the children who follow them through the Park City school system. Your leadership will leave an impact on our town for decades to come, and we are all immensely better for it. Sincerely, Bill and Susan Pitt.
Thank you all for being an incredible team. You guys are, and I know that the district is in really good hands, you guys.
Is it true that you're going to go on KPCW now?
So after the first agenda meeting, they say no comment.
No comment. No comments.
We will go to the consent agenda. Can I please get a motion to approve the consent agenda that includes regular session minutes of November 15th, accounts payable registers of November 3rd, 7th, 8th, 9th, 16th, 17th, 18th, 28th, 30th, December 1st, 2nd, 6th, and December 8th of 2022, travel requests, new course proposals, job study analysis, contract, alternative language services plan, personnel information, and November revenues and expenditures.
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Any discussion?
Nope. When's the job contract done?
The job study is all Wasatch back. So all the districts are contributing to that. We're the administrative agent on that contract. So we're going to see the full bill, but then other districts will offset that cost. And they have they started, Dr. Shan?
They have. We've had 2 meetings already. We're hoping to have data in the time for the negotiations.
Yeah. Okay.
So springtime, because it doesn't say on the contract, so we should get stuff back springtime.
Yeah.
And what's our plan on contract negotiations on timing for that?
January, some IDB training because it's a new team again, you know, new leadership
Yeah.
on the CEA and PCCEA EIG. So we'll have an outline of how that process works. January, February would start identifying priorities to talk about February, March, start talking about the parameters of that proposal, then hopefully have everything worked up for review April, approval May or June if it pushes. But remember, we won't have the budgetary numbers until May, at the end of the legislative session, maybe at least be very prepped by the end of April as well.
Okay, so as a follow-up to that, because there isn't like, to make those priorities, I imagine some want to see what the results are of that work study. Will we get information as it's happening, or we will waiting until June? Because I think it's going to be
You'll get it. You'll have some of that.
while
So
they're
what's gonna
setting
happen-
priorities and stuff.
So our next board meeting in January is the same date that the legislative session starts, right? So the governor's proposed budget's already out there, but it changes 8 or 12 times, right, throughout the session. But we're gonna know trends. So we're gonna watch legislative trends. We're gonna watch, the things that we're getting back from the study. But basically what we did this time that's broader is it's not just like an administrative assistant to an administrative assistant in school. It's looking at all the administrative assistants as categories. You might be looking at resorts, you might be looking at other ski towns, as well as Wasatch Jack. So we're gonna have a lot of comparisons that way. We also have the goals, the educational goals that the governor and kind of different committees set out that we did the 4-year plan on. So we still have that. So that's kind of still a guiding document of where we want to get as a state, education wise, salary wise, cost of living wise. So we kind of still have that document, whatever updates come out of that as well. So I'd be looking for those updates in January.
Okay, so they'll have that
We'll have stuff.
information as
We'll have
they're
stuff.
starting the priorities and all that. Right?
Excellent. Great questions.
Any other questions? All right, then all in favor?
Aye.
That is unanimous. We will move on to employee groups. We have Mr. Negosian here for PCEA.
Hi, guys.
Join us.
On behalf of PCA.
Thank you. Thank you.
Absolutely. So I'm filling in. Mary has COVID, unfortunately. And Jake's running our Able meeting right now. So they sent me, I'm the treasurer for PCA. I teach 6th grade math at Ecker Hill. On behalf of PCA, we would like to thank Aaron and Mandy for their tireless work serving the Park City community as members of the Board of Education. Aaron, people do not see the extra hours you spent behind the scenes in conversation on Zoom meetings and working in schools on behalf of families, students, and teachers. PCA appreciates the strong working relationship we built over 5 years on the school board. Mandy, thank you for stepping into a difficult position and serving the PCA community. And school board is often a thankless commitment, and PCA appreciates your willingness to jump to the job and learn on the fly. And teaching Abby was fun too. We wish you the best in your next endeavors. We're certain we'll be seeing you around Park City at schools and community events and at parent-teacher conferences.
Absolutely.
Given it is the end of the calendar year, PCA believes we have much to be proud of and are excited for the work ahead. Between construction and compensation negotiations, we are certain PCA, the school board, and the district will be busy next spring. In Jake and Mary's meeting yesterday with Dr. Gilday and Dr. Sorensen, they discussed timing and coordination for compensation negotiations, as you guys were just talking about. We see compensation negotiations as an opportunity to work on behalf of current teachers in PCSD, retaining quality teachers and keeping them in our district. However, we also realize it is a chance to find creative ways of recruiting new teachers to our district. Given the shortage of teachers nationwide, creativity with recruitment is becoming more and more important, and we believe a new contract can be a central component of bringing quality teachers to Park City. Thanks again, Aaron and Mandy. We look forward to the work of 2023. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Being here.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for coming.
Sure.
Cindy, would you like to join us today?
Like 1 minute. So I want to thank you for the opportunity to give you an update for the EIG group. We've received input from our members and have shared the comments and concerns that they've given us with PCCA, Shad Sorensen, and Dr. Gilday. We're looking forward to the job study review, and we're grateful that our members will be able to weigh in their input on their jobs. We're also looking forward to a successful negotiations process and how we can assist to benefit all classified employees, not just those that belong to one group or another. Our monthly meetings with Dr. Gilday, Shad Sorensen, and PCCA have been most beneficial in bringing us together.
And Ms. Gray and Ms. Pomeroy, I would like to thank you for your services and efforts on behalf of the employees, staff, and the community. You will be greatly missed. No, I'm.
Perfect. I think that's it for employee groups, so. Oh, or Zach, do you want to go, Zach, Zach go first? Zach? I'm like, which one, you guys?
So on behalf of the student body, thank you, Ms. Grady, and thank you, Ms. Pomeroy, for your service. And now I'm just student council update. So for student council, we had the shoe drive going on in late October and early November, and we got a total of 207 pairs of shoes donated. And as well as in November, we also had the high school musical, the high school's production of the musical Newsies, and it turned out really nicely. Congratulations to all of those students who participated.
They did a fabulous job.
Then again, in November, we had the talent show tryouts for PCHS. A total of 14 groups tried out. Sadly, only 12 of them made it. But I'm really looking forward to some of the acts, including a teacher who is going to be doing a little rap. And then also, which that should be very interesting. And then ongoing stuff we have right now is going to be the NHS food drive. And so students are encouraged to bring in canned foods and hygiene products into their 2 white class, as well as donating money if they cannot bring in those items. And then in the future, we have the holiday meal assembly and delivery, which is with UEA, and it is on December 17th, and members of the community are welcome to participate in that. And then for student council, on February 11th, we have the Winter's Dance. Unfortunately, it is going to be held in the gym this year because our venue canceled on us last minute. So a little unfortunate there. And this theme is going to be Winter Wonderland.
Did you say the 11th?
Yep.
Just adding that.
And that is it.
That's it. I just want to say thank you for stepping up and serving on the board. It's been awesome to get to know you. You've been doing an amazing job. So thanks. And good luck.
It's been awesome knowing you as well.
Mr. Tanner.
Good afternoon. This is the board operations update for the 13th of December 22. I want to start out by saying you probably should have warned us about the confetti cannon. I saw Brandon jump out there. But outside of that, thank you. It's been a pleasure to work underneath you. So thanks so much for your support throughout the years. COVID update, we're still in low as a community, and that's good news. We're not really seeing numbers spiking here in the schools yet. We were watching it right after Thanksgiving, thinking we're going to see big numbers, but we just haven't. We do have all of our backshot mitigations that's still in place, and we're also prepared to ramp up very quickly if something does emerge. We are seeing a normal seasonal increase in flu, colds, strep, respiratory illnesses, but that's pretty normal. So I think we're just returning back to ops normal in terms of illnesses. Buildings and grounds, is hats off to the team. They're doing a great job clearing our plentiful early season snow for us. So if you see those folks, give them a slap on the back. I want to inform the community that Comstock Drive will be closed over winter break as we're tearing that up to replace the sewer line that goes along towards McCollum. We're finalizing the parking contract, long-term parking contract with Park City Municipal, and we're working through a new memo of understanding possibly with Park City Institute. So I'm on those things right now. Transportation, our staffing still is a challenge, but it's slightly improving as our long-term sick employees are returning. The department adopted an online training module. I mentioned that last month for the CDL portion of driver training, which should help us out. The mechanics are still driving when available, and we're back to supporting space available passengers on most of our buses. Child nutrition services, when I wrote this yesterday, was fully staffed. Today they're short one again, but they're close, which is good. John reports that the supply chain is still relatively steady, and they're focusing their efforts again more on scratch cooking and healthier menu selections. And he's preparing for the end of January administrative review that his department gets from the SDA. Human resources, Chad just spoke about the job study RFP, which is underway, and should give us some great insight as to our inner market and how we can remain competitive. And we're still experiencing staffing challenges, as everyone knows, in transportation, aquatics center, and coaches. From a security perspective, the Park City School District is working with the Summit County Sheriff Office on installation of the AGIC system. I mentioned that, and the work's undergoing. Park City School District will also offer active shooter and law enforcement response training on the 3rd of February. And then we're going to follow that up with a exercise coordinated by the Park City Police Department, where our staff could volunteer to be an actor or experience the week of 20th of February, which is winter break. So school will be out, but staff who wants to volunteer and be a part of that can still come and be a part of it. So that's my briefing for tonight, unless you have any questions.
Thank you.
We're gonna go over our facilities.
In a minute, yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Tanner, for everything.
Great, all right. I have a PowerPoint, but it's short, really short. I kept it short this month. I think Lori is gonna post that for us. Thank you. So again, always focusing on our safety, academic achievements and opportunities, highlighting the mission and vision of the organization, because that's always the North Star. And again, that's a community-driven vision and mission that was started in 2017. When you started, right? So 2017-18 school year was when that was updated. So we'll go ahead and go through the mission and the vision. This month, I just want to quickly talk about our students have had such awesome opportunities, and I know not everybody gets to hear always the cool things, but out of our class at Treasure Mountain, students got to design skis. And an article is coming out about that in the next couple of days. So this is just kind of a preview, but they were able to design skis that may actually be created for an Olympian. So it's kind of a cool thing. And so just to see the enthusiasm and the detail that went into these designs, it's really cool. And many of them have some fun stories as to why they picked the specific themes they did, but really advanced. I would never think these are junior high, high school, early high school kids. So great work there. We're going to talk a little bit about the CTE career pathways and a little bit about the work from the equity test committee, which has made great progress on the policy development. So it's very exciting. So our mission, of course, inspiring and supporting our students equitably to achieve their academic and social potential. And then I love the whole child definition of students being safe, supported, engaged, challenged, and healthy. And of course, we want that for our students and our staff. And again, that's the North Star of the district. Something that's very important is as we come back from winter break in January, the statutes and the regulations around student attendance are coming back into force. So while there was kind of a break on truancy sort of guidelines throughout the pandemic, all of that has kind of been now, we've all been told, okay, we're beyond that. You need to make sure that you're really paying attention to student attendance. Obviously, if a student is ill, has a fever, vomiting, diarrhea, nausea, should still be home. But if you're not sick or having a family approved reason for being out, you really should be in school. And there's so much research supporting, good, solid attendance, not just from the content, but just that feeling of part of the school, and part of all the different activities, that you miss when you're gone.
So those mental kind of health aids are kind of going away.
Right.
Okay.
Right. As long as a parent approves an absence, right? I mean, obviously parents decide when their child needs to be there, but most systems, even in the worst of the worst flu or the worst of the worst viruses, typically 95% attendance rate is what you see in schools or districts. We want higher than that, even if we can, 98%, but we don't want to get below that, right? So we want to try to keep that attendance high, and that's for our staff and our students. We take period by period attendance in the high school, so sometimes the absences sound large because we're looking at the day broken up into each course. But anyway, just the importance of attendance, you're going to start hearing it from your schools, you're going to hear it in newsletters, and because again, when we come in and audit, what happens like in a CTE program, if a student is not there 10 days, they actually get dropped from the program. Like you need to, unless again, valid reason, it's a medical illness and you're hospitalized, obviously that's something totally different. But just if you're choosing to not come to a class, you don't actually count in the enrollments then. So that can impact your credit. Right, so we want to make sure students are really attentive to that. Student services is kind of highlighted this month. You'll read about that in the district newsletter that comes out once a month. So Carolyn Sinan's work is highlighted with all the things she oversees. And her work connects to whole child, it connects to wellness, and she oversees a good number of departments. And I bet it was Carolyn who maybe added that important reminder on attendance, that's coming back kind of from all of us. Our secondary course proposals that were approved earlier in the consent agenda are really fun and exciting. They build on career paths that already exist, but they are kind of that next class. So baking and pastry and the culinary arts is like the final, kind of course to round out the program. Flight simulator, an aviation pathway, having an AP pre-calc option for those kids who maybe aren't quite ready for dual enrollment, but they still want the access to calculus for college credit. A drone lab, that's kind of new. We didn't have unmanned flight before. So again, that goes into the aviation pathway. Investing in wealth management is part of a finance pathway, which is very encouraging for kids, especially if you're looking at entrepreneurship or business in college. And then intro to physical therapy really helps introduce some of the health and medicine grant for PCSD. So really excited about those. And I think our students, they sound exciting. Like I would like to go back and take some of those. So I'm hoping students will enjoy those as well. The access, equity, opportunity obviously has been a big area of interest pre-pandemic, right? We started working on equitable practices principles like removing fees and really making sure kids have the opportunity to participate in athletics and activities and competitions and travel. All the academic courses have no barriers, very few prereqs, if any. So we want to keep that going. And the committee that Carolyn is guiding this year and Mary Krista is facilitating is making great progress with actually building kind of a visionary policy statement that really has great purpose in it, mission, vision, purpose, and beliefs about our community and all of the great ways that we can make sure every student gets exactly what they need to be successful. So our next step in that work will be a feedback loop in January and February from staff and students, I hope, and families. So we can make sure we're on the right track as a committee. So it's kind of exciting. And then just a reminder of where we are in those action steps is we do have that first draft now. So we keep making progress, working on an RFP for an external assessment just to get outside set of eyes. How are we doing in equitable practices? How's our PD? How's our recruitment strategy? How are our materials? How is our makeup of our staff and all those kinds of things? We do have the required equity module that's been available since November 15th, so that's exciting. Then that is really, I think that's my last thing. So I did try to keep it short for you for December. As we approach winter break, we've had some winter weather already this year. We're getting used to it. We're getting some practice. We try really, really hard to stay open. We are a ski town. So we're kind of known for cleaning the roads and getting people here. So we really, really try as much as we can, but we obviously want folks to prepare, and it does take longer. So if you're a student who drives and you're used to getting to school in 20 minutes, it may take 60 minutes during the snow, right? And our staff, some of our staff have actually spent 2 hours getting to school on some of these snowy days. So we want to thank them because their dedication and their efforts to do whatever it takes is very apparent to all of us who work in the system. They keep student learning as the center and as our priority. And we're so appreciative of all of the efforts they make. So as the winter wet, we all kind of get used to winter, but boy, each year it's just kind of getting used to the pattern of the storms, and it's really hard to predict, exactly how the wind's going to flow. Uinta was delayed today, but we did not have the same storm, that hit them. So we do watch. Mr. Tanner is up overnight, typically contacting me with frequent updates on 80 looks okay, or this road looks like it's going to cause a problem. And then we try to make safety decisions as best as we can, but I do think that time element, we just have to all prepare for that. It is gonna take longer on those days. And we do have a 2-hour delay that we can do if it's really necessary, but not on a Friday. Because on Fridays, we already have early release, and so we wouldn't meet the minimum day. So it's either open or close on a Friday. Happy to answer any questions.
You know, that was my only question. Do we have a 2-hour delay plan schedule that's enforceable like on the,
Yes.
and I understand the Friday.
Yeah, many of the schools have sent out kind of what the schedule would be and what to be prepared for on those days.
Okay.
So you'd still run your full day, just on shorter time increments. It's kind of how they have it planned. I'm hoping one day we may be able to get to a remote schedule if needed, but right now we have that for secondary, but not elementary. Our elementary devices are plugged into the hearts, so it's not as easy to send the devices back and forth. The other reminder that did go out today to Eckerd Hill families is to please care for those devices, because we do keep them in use. They're on about a 7-year cycle. So we usually have very good care and very careful treatment of the devices so that they do last. So unfortunately, we're seeing a little bit of carelessness. So we're going to ask, remind people to please take care of those devices, because they cost all of us more money if we have to replace them.
We've received that. We've all received that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that notice.
So, yeah.
Very good. Excellent. Very good. Thank you.
Well, thank you.
Thank you. You will be sincerely missed. You will be sincerely missed. You've both done so much, and your visits to schools, I know, have been so appreciated. Everybody loves when you're there, and we're hoping we're still going to see you all come.
Yes, definitely. And I'll be enjoying all the snow that you guys are worried about 2 hours. Keep it coming.
We're going to sign you.
Perfect. Thank you, Dr. Gilday. All right, facilities update. Mr. Tanner, did you want to join us again?
That's the construction update for the month. I asked the board to remember that we have 2 different jurisdictions that we're serving here, both the county and the city, different sets of rules, and so our response to them has been different. We'll start with the county schools. Jeremy Ranch, conditional use permit and USBE project number have been secured and full construction is underway. We have no restrictions at Jeremy. At Eckerd Hill Middle School, bid package number 1, which is the parking lot movement where the buses drop off. That's underway under a permit that was issued by the county. We do have a USB project number secured for that piece of the project as well, and it involves demolishing the current bus drop-off area, installing curbs, moving the lane, and we're in the process. The curbs are just about poured right now, and we're looking at putting in asphalt millings for winter conditions, and there's we return our buses back to that site as soon as possible, get them out of the church lot next door. The church lot purchase agreement and licensing agreement are complete from our side, complete with signatures. It's just working through the bureaucracy of the church right now for final approval on the closing date. Eckerd Hill Middle School bid package number 2, which is the overall project. The conditional use permit application will be considered tonight at the Snyderville Basin Planning Commission. So if anybody wants to witness that in process, it's at 6 o'clock at the library, the Summit County Library. Once approved, that conditional use permit package will then move on to Summit County Council in January for final approval. So we're looking for unrestricted construction to begin in January, but we've got enough work until then with the bid package number 1 work that we're doing right now and moving the bus lane. Carly's Park and Trailside, all of the work is, the planning work is being conducted right now. We'll put through conditional use permit and rezoning applications as needed with the county with those, and the construction documents for Hartley's should be deliverable here at the end of December, and Trailside towards the end of March. Start date for both those projects is still to be determined. Now onto the city schools. For McPolin, we've got the conditional use permit and USBE project number secured, and we're in continual coordination with Park City Municipal Corporation. Their team there have been very cooperative and very proactive in that relationship, and full construction is underway at McPolin. Park City High School, again, conditional use permit USB project numbers are secured. And again, coordination is very tight with Park City Municipal, and full construction is underway there as well. I'd like to remind the board and the public that we publish a weekly summary of construction that's going on, both in narrative form and spreadsheets on the district website. And that's intentionally written in layman's terms, so most people will be able to understand it. There were some concerns about winter weather, and I just wanted to go over those in the construction project, so the board is clear. Winter construction is very common in Park City. You see it going on all over the place. And so it's nothing unusual. Park City School District and Hughes always planned on winter operations. We were planning on going 2 full seasons here through the winter. So this is no surprise to us. The quality concerns presented by cold weather challenges can be mitigated by applying appropriate winter construction procedures. And as professional contractors, Hughes will employ the appropriate procedures and also provide an internal quality assurance review step in their process to make sure they're not dropping the ball. Additionally, our owner's rep, Mocha, who is here tonight, is also very experienced in winter operations and will provide a second level of oversight, ensuring that Hughes applies the appropriate winter mitigation procedures. And then as a final step of oversight, we have contracted special inspections that will look at the things like concrete strength and those kinds of things to ensure that the quality of what we're receiving is up to speed. I want to emphasize that Hughes is incentivized to get this right. Hughes, our general contractor, ultimately they bear the final and operational responsibility for addressing any issues that may result from the inappropriate application of winter procedures. So while there may be some additional winter construction costs, they'll be absorbed into the overall project budget with confidence. And I just like to remind the board, there are also costs associated with waiting until spring, opportunity costs and timeline, get your kids in, and potential supply chain costs. So we're moving forward. The district's owner's representative team is here tonight, Mocha, if anyone has any in-depth questions that I can answer, and I'm happy to take the questions.
Yeah, so a couple questions. Do we have any estimate on cost overruns due to the county's enforced delays?
The costs at this time are mostly in time, in that, overall we've been delayed about 6 months. So you can obviously parlay that into there being an opportunity cost that's kept our kids out of the newly constructed schools for 6 months. And we really can't quantify those from a construction perspective, but they're certainly there.
Do we have any update on the legality of their delays?
I know that I say,
That would be a closed session.
yeah, we
On there, but
Well, not necessarily. I mean, they're not suing us.
No.
I guess if we were to sue them, yeah, potentially, but I mean, do we have any views? Do we have any updates from our legal team on that? Is there any new news that's worthy of having a closed session to discuss that, or not yet? Okay. So there's, just to be clear, there's no safety or quality concerns because of the weather, because we're in Park City and Hughes knows exactly how to build in the winter because they've been doing it for 100 years, right?
and Mocha too. So
Yeah. Okay, just wanted to make sure because some of the experts in the media were implying that there were some safety concerns. They just moved here from California, so they're experts on Park City construction. So just wanted to make sure that we were all okay on that.
Yeah, we're confident.
Okay, so the California experts in the media don't, okay, got it. What about Treasure? Do we have any update on any type of workforce that we could do with the city or any type of noodling on ideas of what we can repurpose that for?
we haven't really started a repurposing
Yeah.
dialogue yet.
Okay,
Well, I think that's going to be an ongoing discussion, right? The community obviously built the school. It's being decommissioned as a school, but can it be
Yeah.
repurposed for something else? And
Yeah.
we know that, under roof athletic spaces at a premium, and just general office spaces at a premium. So it might be able to be repurposed. I think that'll be a big community discussion down the road as we get closer. We're keeping that kind of as a buffer, not knowing exactly what the timeline we're going to move into the other schools. So we're probably looking, a couple of years down the road, a year and a half, at least, until we start to engage in those discussions.
is it possible to start a conversation maybe with the city staff, Matt Dias and those guys about potentials? Because I think, whether that's housing or other alternative uses, athletic facilities, et cetera. I mean, it's gonna take years to figure out and get the community buy-in, but probably makes sense that we start in the new year. We'll do that.
Okay, I just had, a couple follow-up questions too, I think, because I just didn't catch stuff. Timeline, did you say Parley's, all docs could be delivered at the end of this month? And then,
Yeah, it's a multi-step process as
Yeah.
as we work through design. So the timeline for Parley's delivery was the construction documents by the 22nd of December. This is
Okay.
when we're
and then
anticipating.
did you say, was it March for Trailside, or did I,
Yes, 23rd of March for Trails.
23rd of March?
Yeah.
And then ongoing, there's no other reason to believe those, we don't need CUPs for those, there's not,
Well,
or
we
I
do
mean,
need CUPs
Oh,
for
okay.
those. And so we're
so
going to.
would that be delayed further?
Well.
No.
We're
Oh, okay.
we're leaving report on those right now.
Oh, right, okay, okay. And then, you said tonight's the meeting. And then January is going, is it already on the schedule for January?
It's not yet.
Okay.
We're hoping to get it on their first meeting in January.
Got it.
The conditional use permit process with the county is a two-step
Yeah,
process.
right.
And so
But
we've
tonight's
got to
the
clear.
first step.
There's also a rezone.
Right.
The rezone.
And there's,
Right.
okay, that's what I was gonna ask you what this means.
And once that package is approved, then it
Okay.
moves on to the Summit County Council for final
Right.
approval.
And
Which will happen in Chilton.
Right. And they're bogged down this time of year with, all their budget and all that kind of stuff. So we're hoping to get on in January 1st.
Awesome. Thanks for all your help. and
Thank
leadership
you.
on this thing.
Yes, very
Thanks.
much, thanks.
Good luck.
Yeah, good
Yeah, good luck
luck. Thank
tonight.
you for
Well,
going.
enjoy that. It's gonna be awesome.
All right, now we'll move on to the decision of open and closed schools. So I will turn the time over to.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna throw
So
some
you go to hearing.
compensation for see if it'll pop up.
Yeah.
Trying to put a few slides up here on the
Oh, sorry.
screen. So looking at open and closed schools, obviously we're in that period of time, early in open enrollment period. There's a late open enrollment period as well. We'll just have you pull it up. It doesn't send me with Nexus. So a couple things, since the last board meeting, we ran some numbers, Andrew at DLI looked at it a couple of different ways, and that is, how does that affect class size and the potential closing of schools? And by making sure we have 4 teachers in each grade, for example, at Trailside, we've got 3 grades that have 2 DLI classes and 1 non-DLI class, and so it makes it problematic at times to have all the kids in that one class. Of course, if we add teachers there at Trailside, then that class size would go down and result in a closed school. Another piece that we looked at besides the DLI was just the impact right now of students going to other school districts versus students coming to our school district. As was mentioned in the last meeting, our local value is a lot higher than the other 2 school districts, Wasatch County and South Summit School District. And so even if we have an equal number of students that go, say we have 20 students who go to South Summit School District and we have 20 that come to Park City School District from South Summit, we're still going to pay money to South Summit School District based on that because our local value is higher. And so in an effort to recoup that, that's a financial loss. And then just the sheer K-12 differential that we have going on between, seniors going out and the kindergarten kids coming in, which is close to about 190 students, anticipating a loss from there if there's no influx or migration of additional students. So we ran it several different ways. Let's go to this. So the presentation that was brought to you last time was based on the 10-year trend, the forecast. The 10-year trend, of course, takes into account the closer the decline is to the year we're talking about, the more robust the decline is in the estimate for the new year. So we actually ran those figures on a 10-year, 5-year, 3-year trend. And then we used the 10-year, 5-year, that's just trend again, it should say average. We used the 10-year, 5-year, 3-year average. Ultimately, we're proposing based on the data we found from the 10-year average But that doesn't take into account is the decline that's been graded the last 3 years with Park City School District. However, over an average period of time, in the last 3 years with those schools being closed, we have evaluated the DLI impact. We evaluated the financial impact and just the sheer loss of dollars, state dollars that we're having here in Park City due to the student decline that we've had the last few years. And then, of course, as I mentioned, the exchange between the local collection between the different districts that have kids coming here and we have kids going there. And so one of the avenues we looked at was minimizing that dollar loss. Review the state code as the state code was updated, which this early open enrollment period would go through actually not the third Friday in February, but the first Friday in February now is the new update. And so that would allow, if the board chooses to open schools, that would allow parents to apply to those schools, file the application to apply to those schools, out of boundary schools, and then we would see the numbers from there. One thing we can do in the law, and the law doesn't say you can or can't, but some of the research I've done and talking to colleagues, we can't close grade by grade as a district as a whole. But once FTEs are allocated, or we have an idea of what FTEs are going to be allocated by grade, then the principal surely can look and say, I've got this many kids in fifth grade, and fifth grade is full at that school as we look at which kids we accept into open enrollment, if that's where the board goes. So next update is the first Friday in February. We'll go to the last slide here. So this is kind of the administrative recommendation as we talked about this internally. One of the scenarios did have Trailside closed, although if we're gonna move to trying to equalize those classes at Trailside, it'll make it more problematic from a financial sense to you're adding 3 teachers but closing a school that's potentially declining. So the administrative recommendation is to have those 4 elementary schools open during this open enrollment, this early open enrollment period, and see how many applications we receive, and then reassess for the late open enrollment period, which just because there's an open enrollment period right now, that just simply means we're taking applications. It means anything's approved. The approval has to be done by the end of March, I believe, is the deadline for that, and the later dates there. So the proposal is to remain closed the secondary schools and open the 4 elementary schools that have been declining, which again, as the board knows, are a bubble of enrollments coming through the secondary schools right now. And so from a birth rate standpoint, the number of kindergarten kids coming in each year around the 200 number, or other grades, we have 300 and 400 kids in those grades. And so that would be that proposal from the administration to help out not only those schools and some growth in the district, but to have easier to balance the budget overall. So happy to entertain any questions the board may have.
Can I just clarify something really quick
Yeah.
before we dig in a little deeper? You said you can't close grade by grade, but let's say McCullen, we find grades 2 and 3 are full. We have it open. You can essentially not close the school, keep it open for grades 1 and 2. That sounds
Yeah.
conflicting to me. How do we keep it open?
So right now you would
but
open
keep
the
class
school
closed?
overall for application only, right? Those decisions don't have to be made till March. In the meantime, we start the budget process. We get an idea what the legislature is going to fund. And based on the applications that come in, we would be able to reassess what we believe the enrollment's going to be, which would drive the budget for the next year. And so as we allocate FTEs to the schools by grade and say, here are the number of teachers you're going to have, here's the expected class size or the goal class size. When that grade gets too full, either with migrating kids coming into the boundaries, potentially, but it gets too full for that grade, the principal can say, I don't have any more room in 3rd grade. And then we can update that at a later date.
So the school's open except for that grade.
Yeah, essentially.
Are you
Yeah.
moving those kids to another elementary school that's not that, I mean, do we have the
You
ability
may
to
be
do
able to
that?
offer that, right?
Yeah,
So
could
you may be able to
that was my next
call,
question.
you may be able to call an open enrollment family and say, and we know you applied to go to Harley's, but we actually have space in 3rd grade at Jeremy or Trailside. Do you have a preference? Because when you're doing the open enrollment, you're doing your own transportation anyway.
Right.
You're not-
And this is known in March. this is a decision
We have to
You're
let
saying
families
know by March, like what is the statutory?
There's a certain date, so there's two periods, the open enrollment and the late enrollment. And the law reads in the early open enrollment period,
Application.
it's by there's two certain dates in there, and the later be the one. I want to say the last date's March 31st. That we have to, on the open enrollment period, that we have to let families know about.
Then there's a late period, which is a whole other thing. Late
Right.
period is basically filling in any of those seats where maybe kids moved away, you know.
So applications that you said they moved it statutorily to the first week of February?
That's the end, first week of February. The beginning now is actually, they just changed that to November 15th.
Oh.
Yeah, it's earlier now. It's been December 1st for years. But yeah, it's been moved to November 15th.
Can I ask a question about application process? So we're accepting applications, there's initial one early and then later. There's 100 seats and you get 150 applications. How, is it first come, first served? Is it a lottery? How do we determine who's in and who's not in?
So the law is pretty open in regards to that. So for example, maybe you have siblings that are issues, or you have, a teacher that you hire into that school and they're bringing their kids, but they don't live in the boundary. There's a lot of different factors that go into that. The district can determine that. The board can determine where is their priority going to be given as far as which kids go into the school and not. So yeah, there's gotta be a definite process designed by the board or by administration. But to have a specific process in the code, it doesn't exist.
So I have a couple questions. So I'd love to see the actual numbers that you used for these assumptions. I mean, I guess what I'm having difficulty understanding is if, I know what the WPU is, and it's a fraction of what we spend per pupil in these districts. So I don't understand how adding children helps us financially, right? I mean, on an absolute basis, our revenue increases, but so does our expenses, right? And so I guess I'd love to see the numbers to see what that equilibrium is, right? I mean, imagine it has to do with class size and how many sections we have and teachers. My concern would be that even right now, I know that we have schools where we're short teachers and the class sizes are too big. So, in theory, if we're going to have capped class sizes, we can open to those to those levels, but I know we already have a shortage, right? The fifth grade at Parley's, we're short a teacher, right? So I guess I'd love to see the numbers, and then I'd love to see what the staffing plan is, and the anticipated class sizes, and what limits we're going to put on the class sizes should we open this, right? And the guidance we're going to be giving our principals, especially in the primary schools, in terms of what our caps are, because there's people who pay, they pay taxes so their kids can go here in the boundary, and if we're going to have a deficit for every additional kid and we're going to have higher class sizes, that's not, we can't act in that way as fiduciaries of the tax dollars, right? So
Typically, if you think about it, we actually don't get any WPU really right now, right?
Right.
Because you're 24, right now, the 24 million is the recapture amount, right? So we've got that going on. So anything we get actually isn't extra, right? So the good news is when some of these kids come in, it offsets some of that. What we're not getting. We're not getting any WPU, right? We're actually we're losing all of our WPU plus an amount, right? Locally. So anything we get in, if you're putting someone into an existing classroom that has the room.
it has space. And that's why, I guess that's my concern is that, and then the secondary concern is once the kids are here in elementary school, their expectation is going to be that they get to go through graduation in our district. And I don't think we want to kick anyone out. And so then the demographics become really important, and, what that looks like in our schools in 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. So I think
that's kind of a reason to do the open.
well, yes and no. I mean, if we get to a point where we open it up and now we have many more primary school kids And then we're gonna have capacity issues in the secondary schools when all of those kids stay and then more kids move in, if that happens. Right, I mean, we're, opening schools, there's an argument for it because you're providing education, we're a public education system, right? I mean, we should be providing education for anyone we can. But we also spend a tremendous amount of money per pupil, and people pay a lot of taxes so that their kids get that money spent per pupil. And, we have a responsibility to protect the tax dollars, right, in the interest of our taxpayers. So I think we need to have more data on the numbers per pupil and on the on the forecasts of growth too. Or not, right? But I know that we have a ton of, if even the development at Kimball Junction gets pulled off, right? That giant development that they reduced from 2,000 units to 1,000 units, that's another 300 kids that come into, or 500 kids that come into our district. And then all of a sudden, we have a significant issue. So.
But that wouldn't be built overnight.
No, but those kids are gonna be here and then we're gonna have capacity issues, right? Because we've opened our district and let kids in based on the assumption that our enrollment is declining. But if you look at permitted buildings, we still have a ton that can come online. Not to say that it's gonna happen, but those guys, the Dakota Pacific seem hell-bent on building something, right? And that's just that one project.
So the open enrollment, the way it works in the state of Utah is unusual, right? This is not typical. Most states, you wouldn't do it for exactly the reasons you're talking about. You wouldn't have open enrollment because your local taxes are kind of funding, but your local community. But in Utah, there's this equalization concept, right? So the idea is it's sort of a statewide funding, but what the rule or the statute says is that at the end of the elementary years, the family then reapplies for middle school. And then at middle school, anytime we have a transition, that's when they reapply. And then that's where you kind of weigh out now the human factor that you're talking about, right? The human factor is once a student's here and they've built their friendships and, they've committed to the community, it's really hard, right? To say, well, now we don't have room, right? It's really hard. And we typically do honor students continuing through, but the statute itself, does say that you reapply at those different benchmarks. So we're obviously losing one of those benchmarks as we do secondary realignment because we won't have the gap between Ecker and Treasure. So we'll have a 3-year stint and then a 4-year school. But there are other policy implications that we've kind of talked about with this as well. Things like residency verification, things like, right? Because we have a lot of people who, because we're closed, they do a lot of really extreme things to try to get into the district, like buying an address, renting an address. They really go through some desperate, and then we, are then doing these residency checks and doing home visits, and I mean, it really can become a lot, right? So. In Utah, the definition is kind of statewide. They want us to provide equitable access to educational programming. They would love, to raise the salaries of all staff and educators statewide. And we can lead the way, right? We are leading the way in many of those things, but I hate to see us become a less diverse community because of being closed, right? I would like to see, and especially as the neighborhood we're actually most interested in seeing is one that's building so quickly, which is that Silver Creek, right? That's building up so quickly. Right now, we do not allow open enrollment necessarily from there, but that the closest schools would be Trailside and Charlotte. So it's not all the way to that's
I would second Andrew on asking for some more data. I also, and I want to be clear about this. My thought, when we were closed, and the issue that came up, I think it was I don't even remember now when, COVID, I think, times, teachers, children. If I understand, if there's staff, children, or local service, and they come to a school that's closed, right? We cannot, by state legislature right now, legislation precludes us from hiring another teacher if the additional students that create the need for more class if we're a closed school, correct?
After this period, so we can take all of the applications that come in through February, whatever. the due
First
date
Friday
is.
in February.
First Friday in
Yeah.
February, and we can say, if we accept all these kids, 100 kids, if we accept all of them.
And we're a closed school.
No, now we're open.
No, right
Okay,
now,
so
we,
I'm asking really quickly, if we're closed, or the current situation we're in right now, wasn't this the issue, that some of the
Not really.
classes?
The issue is that people didn't apply in time for the process, right? Because we can still,
But I'm just asking about this one
we
legislative
can-
rule. Can
no,
you
it's not.
fund a new teacher?
not after the February,
Okay,
right, so up until that February.
You
deadline,
can,
we can
but
schedule
after a
all
February
these
deadline, you can't.
Right, that's why it's so important to get people to fill out the paper.
I understand. So is there a difference between an open and a closed school
Yeah.
on that issue? And then I would wonder if there's a difference between an open and a closed school on that funding issue, how that impacts staff who brought there, to Andrew's point, your kid has been in elementary. And now they have to reapply by state. We're required to have them reapply at different levels, or
No,
can
we're
we
not
overrule
required.
that?
You have to look at how it's.
So
We're not
then
required.
why have it be, I'm concerned about open and then closed I understand the numbers.
you
But
know,
I
it's
think
a
it really
policy
puts
issue,
in-
right? Like as a
Yeah.
board, we can have policy that says that, you know, staff get priority over
Yeah.
spots, right? And even in a closed school, their children can remain.
Yeah.
That's a policy that we can adapt or adopt.
That's what I'm asking.
And we
And
can do
then, and
that.
can we
But
fund?
that's separate from this conversation, which is,
But not if the funding is impacted by whether our school is closed or
which
open.
funding are you talking about? Funding for teachers?
Yeah,
So remember,
No,
once
but
the kids are here.
We're,
whenever they
no,
show
so
up,
I think there's a misunderstanding. We can fund a teacher in February, we can fund a teacher in June. We can fund a teacher now, right? We can just reopen the budget.
what
and
was
fund it.
the funding issue that you raised when it was back and we were worried our lease stopped the other day? Do you remember that? We had this long discussion about that one class that was getting over, and I remember sitting down with you and Todd talking about there was a funding issue because the class size was going over because it was staff.
Well, that's,
do that.
but that's not a legal thing.
Okay, not legal, then, whatever, funding. I'm just asking if there's a difference. If there's a difference, then to me, it doesn't seem like we should have some schools open and some schools closed,
Right, so
if it impacts our funding.
No, it doesn't impact funding, it impacts class size, right? So
Well, yeah,
we used to not ask people to enroll until August, right? We wouldn't know our class sizes until then, and it was already after the hiring cycle. You know, and that was like an HR nightmare. Now we're in a much better place where we have a feeling for what our expected class sizes are, and we make sure that we are appropriately staffed as far as we can tell, right? But then things happen, right?
Right.
But we're able to fund a position regardless of whether we're open or closed. The issue is that if a bunch of people don't apply for open enrollment, like especially teachers,
right.
but then we need their kids to be here,
Right.
and they put the class size from 25 to 30,
Right.
then, which has happened, like it was all concentrated in certain classes, like kindergarten, et cetera, then it becomes an issue because it's like, all right, should we hire another teacher? And that was the issue. It wasn't a legal thing. It was just a matter of,
I
do we
think
spend,
maybe I used the term.
do we spend more
I was
money?
just talking about funding. I just don't know. I just said the teacher issue was an issue that
So
year.
once the kiddos are here, though, they're in the count. So the good news is,
So
if
they
you
don't-
did have a kiddo, and whether it was they came in kindergarten or fifth grade, they then become part of that 363 cohort, right?
Okay.
So then you can legitimately plan for them staying into sixth grade pretty easily. They become part of that cohort. But if you're going to add an additional kid after the February 1 date because it's a late arriving teacher or late arriving
Yes.
municipal worker,
That's my next
we
question.
can't,
We hire.
we can't hire an additional person, like if you say our caps are 20 and we get to 22, because a municipal worker kid's kid and a teacher's kid comes in, we can't actually hire an addition, we have to do an overage of that class to 22 instead of 20.
Or we
So there
kids
is
in another
a
school.
issue.
Or, right,
Yeah.
right.
But that's if teachers, and I get getting them to sign up sooner, but you hire several new teachers in March, April, May, that's past the deadline.
Right, and then they become what's called late open enrollment instead of early open enrollment.
And
But
that
yes,
impacts
usually-
what the ability is we can do.
So we can hire and include people all the way up through that, or we can include the kids in our allocations all the way up until this February. Like we come to you and say we have 150 in requests. That might be staff, it might be new people in the community, it could be with people outside the boundaries of the community. It could be interboundary school. You know, I live in Farley's, but I want to go to Jeremy, all that stuff, right? 150. But we have that now in our counts. We're going to allocate for that. We're going to budget for that. Cool. Then we get to March 30th and we say we're going to hire 10 teachers. There's 10 more kids. They become a late open enrollment and we see if there's any seats available. We can't hire someone new.
We can't, so we could put them in a different elementary if that class was full.
Right,
Or
or
we
someone
couldn't
who's
hire
there with
somebody
summer
new.
helps and you have seats, and then you can fill in the seats, which is really what open enrollment's for. It's really designed to fill in seats to be as financially expedient, right, as you can be. It's not meant to.
Right,
grow
but
your
that's making an
system to 50
assumption
kids.
that we're not losing money on every kid.
Right, so it's even that question, that's the first question we have to answer.
But you're also losing money from the 75 kids that go to Silver Summit and Facial
Right.
Academy online, right? We're paying for
Yeah, a lot
75
higher
kids, not
value,
getting
right.
anything back for any of them, right?
Andrew, I can show you a financial piece. If you want to see that real quick. We'll flip over. So that's one of the issues is we've got, this last year we had 75 kids going to South Summit School District that were paying about $5,000 a student to go
Yeah.
over there. I don't know if we can make that bigger to make
Yeah,
that
the
bigger.
little.
And then I know the board's aware, but just keep in mind that, I mean, the loss of the students this year, your ADM this year is going to dictate your funding next year. So regardless of if you open or close, regardless of what you do next year, that's going to affect you potentially in the 25 year, correct? So the budget in the 24 year is really based on the students that have already been lost for next year. And so, is that easy enough to read? I know it's small. Is it really make it bigger? Yeah, so so in this financial impact, and I ran a few different ones, but in this one, the assumptions are on the left with the FY23 WPU, use that value. The 22 local assessed values, the 22 local billing of students, because we haven't billed for students at this point, and then the inter-district students as well. And then in this financial assumption, I assume 50 new students coming into the mix if schools were open. So below that, I've got the values shown, 4308 again with the WPU. Park City School District local value. Our value here is 5,000. That's half the local contribution that we put towards educating kids. South Summit School District's value is at 2,300. Wasatch County is at 17, and North Summit's at 21. Below that, you can see the number of Park City students going to Wasatch County School District. So there's 4. But this is the big one, the Park City School District to South Summit School District. There's 75 kids going there. So even though there's 30 South Summit kids coming to Park City, the offset is 45. It's not just simply 45 because we're getting less value for the students coming here from South Summit than going to there, which is what Andrew's point is. So keep it on the right. If you kept all schools closed, our anticipated decrease in FY24 of the 154 students, your student value of 4038 is $621,000. And so your anticipated decrease based on a 10-year trend, of course, if you do it on a 10-year average, the loss is about 78 students, not 154 students, it's about half that. The student value at the 4038, 621,000. The increase in students in the WPU we would regain is 215,000 based on that 4038. I haven't built anything into the 24 numbers. The local assessment to Wasatch County, we're paying 20,000. From Wasatch County, we're gaining 116. I believe it says the local assessment to South Summit's $377,000, and then we're recouping $69,000 of that. So the South Summit's pretty negligible. So change in funding with the 10-year trend is $562,000. Or is that 92? Excuse me.
Yeah.
592.
Yeah, I guess where I'm coming from is I see your numbers, right? So let's assume this number here, which is $300,000, right? Is the 10-year average. So for 50 kids, and if our average class size is, let's call it 20, that's 2.5 teachers that we would have to hire to have 50 more kids, right? And the cost of 2.5 teachers is probably $250,000. So from a financial standpoint, this is a wash, right? It's not, I mean, we're talking 50,000, under $100,000 to have it open, have more kids in the district, but then we have the problem of having to hire more teachers.
Right, so it becomes a factor of where do you place class size, right? What's that optimal class size number, right?
Yeah,
Build a
and
budget on, or do you have?
And my view would be we keep class sizes as low as possible and say, okay, if we're going to lose $50,000 or $100,000 by keeping the schools closed, it's worthwhile, right? I mean, we're self-funding, right? Like we're never going to have an economic incentive to have the schools open, ever. You know, unless all the kids and all the families leave here, in which case we have a separate problem, right? But we have none of us are going to be here. So I don't think there's an economic justification for it. It's just an issue of whether or not we can create then we get into a question of diversity and policy around that. And then it opens up another can of worms, which is, okay, are we willing as a district to create a policy that allows certain kids in because of their socioeconomic level or their, some metric of hardship or ethnicity or other factors that we look at? I mean, it's a pretty tough conversation to have, right? I mean, that's essentially what we're going to have to do to open up our schools, right? I mean, that's the justification for doing it. It's not economic. I'm not disagreeing that that's a valid or a noble reason, but then we have to create a policy that specifically states who we're letting in and why.
Or you're aligning to the state statute that actually directs us as local boards to open, because from a statutory standpoint, you only really have a few reasons to not open, right? If you're using every available space, if you're under construction, if you're in the middle of your master plan, all those reasons can justify closing, but the state's position on it has been, right, that they really, the law, right, says you're open unless there's very limited reasons that you could be closed. So that's the other thing to consider, right? It's just that alignment with that statute.
What? State also pays.
I know, a lot.
No, but we also
No, we're
are
under construction.
we're under construction, we're doing realignment.
Yep.
And every kid we let in, we lose money on. So I think we can check all those boxes. I mean, to me, it's not the year to open it up. But, I mean, maybe we want to say, maybe we want to change our policy around, kids who were here but had to move out for hardship and allow them to stay. I mean, there's certain things we can do that I think we're seeing pretty consistently anecdotally where we can say, okay, if a kid started here and they had to move because of economic hardship, they can stay in school, right? And they don't have to lie about where they're living. I mean, that's an easy fix to a current problem we have. Right?
And consider policy about those who stay don't maybe have the current, all the different bill or what the enrollment requirements are, which is protecting us from the families or those who want to have their cake and eat it too, but maybe impacting some families who are now living together. And so, and the bills aren't under one of their names, like there are different methods we could check on students that have been here.
I'd rather go down that route than allow kids who've been here to stay here than say, okay, we're going to open it up and, the kids who live in Promontory are now able to come to school here because we don't care about class size.
So I guess I'll have a question for you guys. So do you guys want to take time and vote on this tonight? And then readdress policy and code in the upcoming board meetings to handle that? Or would you guys rather keep this open for discussion into the new year and align policy and code together while you do it?
My view would be to vote on this. And then adjust policy in the next month or two before open enrollment's done, to make it clear that kids who moved out because of hardship are still able to attend.
And we'll address class size at that point, at that time?
We gotta do it during budget, right?
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
What are chances?
Yeah, I think we
Nobody's
do
got
that
to
together. I
class
think
size.
it's gotta be together, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's-
And I think also addressing the teacher
The
thing
teacher,
where
yeah,
it's
absolutely.
also in there together.
Class
So,
size, teacher space, I mean, like you said, this is a year of a lot of disruptions. So
Mhm.
we're gonna keep- yeah.
do you have any, questions or concerns
No,
about
that's
this?
basically it, really interesting.
Mandy, do you have any?
No, thank you.
Andrew, do you have any more that you wanna go over? Any other?
No, I mean, I guess we should make a motion on.
Yeah, I was gonna make a motion. I just,
Yeah.
before that, I was just making
Yeah.
sure that we didn't have any more discussion before. So can I get a motion, I believe, to I have to go with the motion with the way you guys have it written, correct? And then, or can I get a
Well, I
motion
think
to, we made to keep all schools closed moving into the 23-24 school year?
Can we? Did you say closed?
Well,
Close.
you said close.
Yes.
And then it says it is separate motion or something about, like addressing the.
We can do that
yeah, we were
separately.
separately.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. I make a motion to, as stated.
That's second.
Second, okay. Any more discussion? All in favor? Aye. Okay, so to keep schools closed, I'll let you guys move into your next board meeting with how you want to handle that moving forward. Does that sound good? Or do you want me
What,
to
yeah,
have?
what,
Well, I would
what
like to
policy
meet-
is it
yeah.
that we have?
Yeah.
I guess we have to amend, it's gonna be a policy around, do we know what policy contains? All the stuff about, checking addresses and what our rules are.
I was like, Lori knows one.
And our policy already addresses in students that move out of the district. There's already the clause in there, and there's already the clause in there for teachers. So our
Okay.
policy already includes some of that, so it may just be tweaking the language.
Yeah.
So maybe just
Speaking
bring
language
up,
and then the policy around like, at some, families who hit hardship, who were initially supplying the right materials to start school, the bills with their names on and all that, but no longer can do that.
And we do work with those families.
Okay,
Our
and
district
making
registrar
sure
is very consistent about working with those families. So they
And
can
just
provide
having another
the-
check for them to confirm they're in the district, or if they're out of the district, grandfather.
so just bring that policy back up for review.
So you have one
And what
in
policy do you say
January.
that was?
1001.
Already class size policy, did we ever?
We
do not have a policy right now, you have averages.
and you
Okay.
have kind of,
So we should do that.
Todd had an allocation formula.
Okay, maybe we look at that too.
Yeah, so maybe if you guys want to bring up.
Okay.
I mean, maybe working on policy with Joan to see about class sizes or what there is, or if that needs to be in code with policy, whatever, however. I will let them decide that perfectly. So let's move on then to policies for posting. Can I please get a motion to post policy 10015 student placement?
I make a motion. Yeah, to approve policy as stated.
To-
I mean,
To post.
policy as stated, sorry.
Second.
Any discussion?
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
Can I get a motion to adopt policies? Well, first off, has there been any, and I think I asked this before, but Lori, there has been no feedback on policy 9065 or 97. So can I please get a motion to adopt policy 9065 volunteers in school and policy 9076 academic acceleration?
Yeah, I make a policy to adopt motion.
Wait, what?
You're multitasking.
Yeah.
Well, I was just taking another note.
I know you
before
were.
we
You were
moved
reading your
on to
notes.
the last policy.
That's okay.
Make the motion.
Second.
Okay, perfect. Any discussion?
No.
No, perfect. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Public comment. Is there anybody here that is for public comment this evening? All right. Oh, do you have public comment?
I do.
All right.
There's-
Well,
Well, I guess because my name's Lauren Hanley, on the last issue,
you
actually,
can come sit up here and then I'll have you fill out this blue sheet, Mrs. Hanley, after you're done. But please make sure that your comments are respectful. And please do not refrain from specifically identifying any personnel issue or not.
yeah, thank you.
We got it. Thanks.
And that's just one of the many things I've learned over the last 5+ years from Erin Grady and learning about all this. And thank you to all of you for all the things that you guys do. I really appreciate that. And I'll get more of that in a minute, but since this other one was fresh, this is a new topic to me. So this is just as a taxpayer coming off the street, looking at those numbers quickly and listening to Andrew about those numbers and the financials and things like that. A number that's curious to me, just off the top of my head, is looking at that $300,000 mark and seeing that money that is going to South Summit. And I don't know what that was in years previous, but I feel like maybe that's a trend. And as somebody that's known a few families that have left the district to go there, I'm just more curious about, is there a way to spend maybe some of those dollars to try to keep some of those families in place here and keep the students and the monies here? And I don't know what those are. You know, I just know of maybe 3 or 4 families, but that's just a curious topic about that. But anyway, I always learn something new when I come here and I really appreciate it. So again, thank you to Erin. I remember probably 6, 7 years ago now, she drove me to PTA meetings and told me she was going to be PTA president. And I told her she was crazy. Then we went through that. And then I get the phone call like, hey, will you come to a board meeting with me there? I'm thinking about doing that. And I was like, you're crazy. No, I know this is ridiculous. And then there was the day drive on the radio and it was like, oh, our board president, Erin Grady. And I was like, haven't we talked about this? So I have told her not to, but I haven't been more grateful that she did. And it's been so brave in so many ways. And I couldn't be more pleased to have you there, especially over these last 5 years. And my kids love you. They call her, they text her, hey, this teacher says that our air is not OSHA compliant, and we'll text her. I was like, text her, and she will figure it out and she will sort through it. And I just love how she's made little advocates out of my children for themselves, for their own education. And I thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate you. Okay. Now, we will we'll do the final adjournment until your guys' next meeting on January 17th at 4 p.m.
Wait.
Oh.
We gotta capture the gap.
Yeah.
Make the
Tell me
motion
when
to
you're ready.
adjourn until the next board meeting on January 17th.
Perfect. All right, well, we'll formal adjourn.
I'm so impressed.
Well, no, it's.